From breathtaking cliff dives to the mega rush of free-ride mountain biking, Red Bull harnessed 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to put adrenaline on display. Relying on the strength of our 5G network, Red Bull powered POV drones to deliver unmatched views while broadcasting in real time from some of the most remote locations in America. This is heart-pounding fan experiences. This is Red Bull with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
You go into your shower feeling, but as soon as you reach for the Irish Spring, your day immediately gets better. That crisp, fresh, unmistakable Irish Spring scent zings your brain and awakens your senses. So when you finally emerge from the shower, 37 minutes later, because you pay the water bill so you can stay in there as long as you want, you're ready to take on the day and smell great doing it. Irish Spring Body Wash and Bar Soap. Fresh, green, Irish. Shop now at Walmart.
It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it, because you did.
On Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York Giant Prime.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. Have some fun.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Friday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live here on Giants.com, as always presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. I'm Paul Dottino, he's Matt Citak, and we're going to be here for the next hour to talk Giants football. Sunday in the Pacific Northwest, they will take on the 3-1 Seattle Seahawks. We got a whole slew of injury stuff to go through, folks. The Seahawks, as of this morning, had 19 guys on their injured list. Whether or not they fully participated, limited participation, or did not participate in practice. I mean, that team, Coach McDonald, I don't know if he's one to play a lot of gamesmanship or not. I don't know him well enough from his time with Baltimore when he was under Coach Harbaugh with the Ravens. But it's kind of funny. You look at their injured list and you're like, is it really possible that they could have 19 guys who are dinged up, nicked up? I mean, we thought that the Giants had epidemics of injuries over the last decade. But that list that Seattle has, I'm thinking there's a lot of gamesmanship involved. I don't know about you, Matt, but that list is about as long as it could possibly be.
It's actually 20.
Well, one guy
is on injured reserve right
yes,
now.
And he's just designated to practice. So it's really only 19.
But technically, he is on the injury report.
Okay, fine. But you get my point.
Yeah, for sure.
How many times have you seen the Giants have that many? And we've been ravaged.
I feel like we've seen it in years past, but in week 13, not week 5. Week 5, your injury report shouldn't be this long.
It's nuts.
Some of it, could be gamesmanship. Some of it could be just, they played on Monday night. It's been a physical and just busy start of the season. Maybe they're just trying to give some of these guys a little bit of rest. Some of them definitely are dealing with injuries.
That is true.
And as we've spoken about many times before, for all these guys listed as limited participants, you could sit out for one rep.
Right.
And then you have to be listed as limited in practice. So I do expect a lot of the guys on this injury list to play. I don't think they will be missing 19 guys come Sunday. Otherwise, their roster would be in a little bit of trouble come Sunday. But some of these guys definitely are not going to make it back. I don't know if Byron Murphy is going to play, who has not practiced all week.
No, I don't think he will.
Injury.
But before we go there, let's just quickly give you an update in the Giants injuries. Then we'll do the Seattle injuries.
Okay.
Because I know you folks are really anxious to hear about what's going on with Big Blue. Malik Neighbors still in concussion protocol. He is also not only going to not play in the game, he's not making the trip to Seattle, according to Coach Brian Daboll.
Which makes sense. If he's not going to play, a guy dealing with a concussion, you don't want him to go on a 6-hour flight across the country.
And then back.
So
nasty.
If he had made the trip, that would have given, some hope that maybe he could have cleared in time to play. But it was the fact that he wasn't able to get on the field yesterday. We kind of put the writing on the wall that it was unlikely he would be able to make it. And yeah, Coach Daboll announced today they're going to keep him here so they don't have to deal with, he doesn't have to deal with flying across the country. He's making progress, though. Coach Daboll did say he is making progress through the protocol. If the Giants, they had a couple extra days, Coach Daboll said maybe he could have cleared in time, but the fact that they have to fly to Seattle tomorrow, play Sunday, just did not give Malik enough time to clear the protocol.
And so, as a result, you can expect to see Jalen Hyatt get the bulk of those snaps as the third receiver. And Mike Groh talked to us earlier today, appreciates all the prep that Hyatt has done. He has busted his butt all off season. We've talked about this for months. This guy is about as good of a teammate and as a coach's player that you could possibly want. And so, I really hope that he has a terrific game, for one, just because he's such a great kid.
Yeah, he is a good kid. And, it obviously has not been, I think, what he would call the most ideal start to his own season. He hasn't been seeing the field a ton. He hasn't gotten a lot of snaps. But as you just said, that's going to change on Sunday. He's going to get a real opportunity to make an impact in this passing attack. I mean, Malik has the highest target share of any player in the NFL. And so all those targets are going to likely be spread out to the rest of the pass catchers.
Step up.
Hyatt, Darius Slayton. I don't know if Wan'Dale Robinson can get any more targets than he's already
He
been
is
getting.
Playing, by the way, despite a sore heel.
Coach
did say he's in.
Yes, Coach Dable did say that Wan'Dale and Brian Burch both are fine and good to go.
And Adoree Jackson and Drew Phillips are going to try to do some stuff today, and they'll have to see how it works out.
But Coach did say that the two corners, Phillips and Adoree Jackson, are trending in the right direction.
Yeah.
Obviously, still a long way to go.
They're out there now on the practice field, folks.
Certainly a good sign.
Fingers crossed.
Better than, the alternative. Better than them not practicing and trending in the wrong
Without
direction.
a doubt.
So, and then the last injury update is running back Devin Singletary.
Yeah.
Who has not practiced yet this week. Coach said that he was going to go out today and try to do some things on the practice field. That one, of all the players, seems to be the most up in the air. Hopefully, he can do enough in practice. If he is able to do enough in practice, I wouldn't be shocked if they give him a questionable tag going into Sunday's game. But that one, maybe we get some clarity before, but that could come down to a game-time decision for all we know.
I kind of suspect it will. Now, if you're the Giants and you need to worry about snaps at those two positions, I'm not going to give you any secrets here because we don't know. But I would guess Isaiah Hodgins would come up as a practice squad activation, and I would guess that Turbo Miller would come up as a practice squad activation to supplement the running back room and the wide receiver room.
Yes, that would make sense because the first few weeks, a lot of the Giants' elevations from the practice squad have been for guys that primarily contribute on special teams. And linebacker Matthew Adams, who was placed on injured reserve at the end of training camp, returned to practice this week. He's been a full participant. We don't know for sure if he's going to be activated tomorrow for this week's game, but signs point towards at least a good chance of that happening, in which case he would obviously play a lot of special team snaps if that is the case.
Let me tell you something about Matthew Adams, former Cleveland Brown, by the way, who has been known as one of the special teams gurus in this league for a few years now. He's very, very good on specials. He is bubbling like the sauce on the stove. He is so excited. I've been watching this guy come in the lunchroom for the last month while he's been on injured reserve, and he's always smiling, and he's always just chomping at the bit, waiting to go. Now he finally got clearance this week to practice. I would be surprised if he is not literally like the horse at the Kentucky Derby waiting to come out of the gate at full gate. He's going to be like a torpedo getting down in kick coverage if he gets in this game on Sunday. I think I probably would want him to be activated this week for that very reason. Yeah. Because he is just bursting with energy.
For those that may not remember, Matthew Adams was the player that back in, I guess it was the end of July, the first day of padded practice during training camp, Matthew Adams showed up to the team meetings hours before practice in his full pads ready to go.
Yes.
This same guy on Wednesday, when the players were, just walking out to practice while Coach Dable was speaking, Matthew Adams walked out with a boombox playing Many Men by 50 Cent. I mean, this guy is ready to go. So I'm with you. I hope he gets activated and we get to see what he can do on special teams this
So
week.
the Giants, like every other NFL team, they have large speakers set up outside the practice field because they will use them during the course of team drill sessions to replicate the loud sound they're going to have in the stadium, especially when they're going to play a game on the road. Well, during special teams drills this week, Matthew Adams, with his huge boombox, playing all of his selections, brought that out to the field and put it on the sideline, and they allowed that music to be played during special teams drills. And let me tell you something. That boombox, you could hear it roaring across the parking lot.
Oh, yeah. We heard it throughout the office, inside. It was pretty loud.
Man, oh man. So this is a fun dude to be around. And so I really hope that infectious enthusiasm helps the Giants in Seattle, because I got a feeling he is going to get a jersey. I really do.
I think so too. And I think, the whole entire special teams unit, kick coverage, punt coverage, those guys are probably very excited to have Matthew Adams back. And I know Michael Gabriel is excited to have him back.
I tell you what, I would not want to be a Seahawk return guy getting hit by him. No. All right, quick. Seattle, some of the injuries, just so you know now, Monday night when they lost to Detroit and they dropped to 3-1, they had 6 starting lineup members out of their defense who were dinged up. 4 guys didn't play. 2 guys got hurt in the game, including Julian Love, came out with a thigh injury. Leonard Williams did not play. He had ribs going down. So 2 former Giants are a very big part of what is a good Seattle defense, but it was decimated. Half of their starters could not give them snaps the other night, and Jared Goff went 18 of 18 for over 220 yards, and they shredded them for 40-plus points. So, it is important to understand what they might or might not have in uniform on Sunday. As far as the key guys are concerned, Matt, give them a quick check on the latest that we know, because it's obviously sketchy.
Yeah, so you mentioned Julian Love and Leonard Williams. Obviously, we're all plenty familiar with them. Leonard Williams did not play last week. He has been a limited participant in practice this week. So who knows? Rib injuries tend to, a lot of the time, be sort of a pain tolerance thing. So that could come down to him. I mean, we'll see how much he's able to get on the field today. Julian Love was upgraded to a full participant in yesterday's practice, which obviously puts him on pace to be able to suit up for Sunday. I mentioned before, rookie defensive tackle Byron Murphy, the Seahawks first-round pick, has not practiced all week due to a hamstring injury. He was one of those starters that you mentioned that missed last week. They were Boye Mafe, linebacker Boye Mafe. He was able to get back on the field as a limited participant yesterday. If he's able to return, that would be a big boost to the Seahawks defense.
Triple big boost.
Yeah.
Because he is a dominant force. He's become the heart and soul of their run defense and also a big part of their pass rush.
Yeah, definitely. Another linebacker, Jerome Baker, has been, where is he? He's been on the practice report, the injury report. Limited participant the last 2 days due to a hamstring injury. Again, you would think that puts him in at least with a good chance to be able to suit up. Uchenna Nwosu.
Yep.
I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Mm-hmm.
He has been a limited participant the last 2 days with a knee injury. What else we got? Oh, Jonathan Hankins, former Giant as well.
He's a backup.
He's a backup, but with Byron Murphy and Leonard Williams hurt, he then elevates to a starting role. He has been on the injury report the last 2 days, but not injury related. It's personal. And so situations like that, we have no idea.
All right. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, too, remember Seattle, because of the 3-hour time difference, their final injury report from today is not going to be out until around dinner time for us.
Oh, yeah. What was it? Wednesday night, we got it. I think it was 8:45.
I mean,
I had to fill it out on the website as I'm watching the Met game. It was not great.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's the bad news in terms of, if the Giants try to plan. Brian Dable said today that the personnel department has done yeoman's work of detailing the talent and the scouting report on the depth chart of the Seahawks, not knowing how many of these guys will have to see significant action and how many of these backup guys they're going to have to face. Obviously, Detroit did a very good job taking advantage of the ravaged defense because I mean, they got eaten alive.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Jared Goff was perfect. 18 for 18 for almost 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. He caught a touchdown. And then
the Philly special.
Yeah.
To the other side.
I got to say, that was an amazing throw by Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then the 2 running backs for the Lions also combined for 3 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
And 100-something yards on the ground. So this Seahawks defense, when healthy, is talented. I mean, we saw it the first couple of weeks of the season.
They're very good.
Granted, they didn't play the best offenses in the league the first 3 weeks, but they took care of business with whoever was on the schedule. We'll see how many of these guys on the injury report are actually able to, get cleared in time and suit up for Sunday. If it's a unit that looks more like what the Seahawks put out Monday night, it might be a little bit easier for the Giants to move the ball up and down the field.
You would think so.
You would think. But if I had to guess, I would say at least some of the guys that missed Monday's game probably have a good shot at returning this week.
All right. We are having some issues with the phones, folks. For those of you who have been watching the show the last couple of days, you know that we have some technical things going on with our phone lines. So we are going to be able to take one caller at a time. Usually we have 3 full lines on the bank, and we can actually stock up a couple of calls while somebody is talking. Not the case right now. We have one telephone line that's open, so as soon as you hear somebody coming off the air, you're going to be able to then call in. That one line will be open, and you could try to get in there at 201-939-4513. Also hit us up on Twitter at #GiantsChat if you prefer. The other thing is, because we don't know of the inconsistency of the line, which apparently has had a lot of bacon and eggs crackling in the background. It sounds like an old 78 RPM record for you old folks who know what an RPM record is. Okay, I know everybody's doing streams and links and all this other stuff. 78 RPM records did actually exist back in the day, folks. And that crackling that they used to call bacon and eggs in the audio industry, we're getting a lot of that on the phone lines too. So for that reason, okay, please, if we pop you up on the air, please try to make your point as quickly as possible. And if we can, we'll send you on your way, and then you can listen to our answer. We give you the answer after we hang up, because we just don't want too much of that background stuff that's interfering with the lines to wind up clouding up the program. All right? Appreciate it. 201-939-4513. Final thought before we get to our calls. Incredible game last night, whether you're a baseball or a football fan. Unbelievable game. The drama. We know that the Mets came back and beat the Brewers in the 9th inning, and that's good for New York baseball, and it's good for baseball in general when the New York teams are good. And that's the last nice thing I'm going to say about the Mets, so don't push your luck on that one, folks. I am a diehard Yankees fan. He's a diehard Mets fan. But I will go there and say that. It's good for baseball, and it's good for the New York area when both teams are winning.
I wasn't sure if you were going to bring this up on the show or not.
Well, I want to be fair about it.
Well,
it's
I
a big
appreciate
deal.
that. I appreciate
It's a big deal.
I
Everybody has spirits uplifted when the teams in the area do well.
That is very true. And I
believe in that. I do.
Well, I agree. And I appreciate that.
I may not want the Mets to win, but that's okay because it does help the environment.
Well, as the resident Mets fan of the BBK crew, I will talk about it for a quick second. As any Mets fan that's watching this knows, we've been through a lot of heartbreak. It seems like every year the Mets find a new way to sort of stick the knife in us and then twist it a little bit extra right at the end. Last night, I was, once the Brewers hit those back-to-back home runs, I felt feeling that. I was like, this has been a great season, but I can't believe this is how it's going to end. No one's hitting the ball other than Lindor. We can't even buy a hit. And then sure enough, Pete Alonso, after all of his struggles, steps up when the team needs him most, hits a 3-run home run. It was my birthday yesterday. That was about the best birthday present I could have asked for.
This I did not know. Okay. Well, happy belated one to you.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I am. I mean
appreciate that.
I mean that.
And now the Mets get to play the Phillies, and who doesn't like to see Philadelphia sports team lose? No matter the sport.
I might actually be a little bit of a Phillies fan the next
couple of weeks. Wow, Paul. After all those nice things you just said about New York sports, you're then going to root for Philadelphia?
I'm not going to root for them. No, I could never root for a Philadelphia team. but I probably wouldn't mind so much if this particular Philadelphia team actually won the next couple of weeks.
You're telling me you wouldn't like to see a Subway Series? How awesome would that be for New York?
Oh, I already saw that.
I know.
And the Yankees took care of business like they needed to.
But that was 25 years ago. So now we're in 2020, 24 years ago.
All right. In any event, folks, we'll get beyond that. And incredible last night. Kirk Cousins had one of the games of his career. Threw for over 400 yards. Back and forth seesaw battle.
500 yards.
Yeah. Actually, it was over 500 by the time he was done in overtime.
Yeah.
And it was an awesome back and forth game. One of the most fun games you're going to watch this year. And eventually, they tied the game on the last-second field goal, which had to come to pass after they got hit for a 5-yard penalty for delay a game. Unreal.
Which that was bizarre to me. I know they were talking about it on the broadcast.
Play clock.
No, I get that, but the ref was standing over the center.
Yeah.
We're not permitting them to snap the ball. So how are they supposed to get the play off in time if the ref isn't allowing them to?
Seemed kind of sketchy.
And they didn't really give an explanation for it.
But they hit the field goal. Okay, and then they get the ball in overtime, and they break a run up the middle, and boom, gone for the touchdown. And so Atlanta survives and beats Tampa in what was a wild, video-like type National Football League game. That's fun when you don't have a dog in the fight. Okay, I could care less about either team, and you could just watch good, fun, enjoyable plays and say to yourself, hey, man, that was one heck of a game. Now, if you're rooting for either team, the team that loses just feels the gut punch.
Oh, yeah.
The Bucks, I thought they had it, and then that fumble on the last drive.
No question.
They had the first down, too.
Without a doubt. That's what I mean. It was just a fun, exciting game to watch.
Definitely. I will say, the Giants faced both of these teams later in the season.
Oh, boy.
Both of those offenses were firing on all cylinders.
Sterling Shepard with the touchdown.
Heads
up, Sterling.
Love to see that.
Thumbs up. Nice touchdown catch.
That is one thing I think we could all agree on. We were all rooting for and happy to see happen. I don't care what happened in the game. Him scoring that touchdown, I think, made all of us happy.
That throw is incredible, too, to Sterling Shepard.
Cousins and Mayfield threw a bunch of darts last night that were just right on the money. They played as well as you could play. I mean, it was a fun game to watch.
Are you a morning person? Or when you roll out of bed, do you literally roll out of bed? Listen, mornings can be hard to handle. From the moment you open your eyes, your responsibilities and to-dos start piling up in your head. But you know what helps? Yep, a shower. But not just any shower, a shower with Irish Spring. Yeah, as soon as you reach for the Irish Spring, your day immediately gets better. Oh, yeah. All those to-dos are totally doable. Because that crisp, fresh, unmistakable Irish Spring scent zings your brain and awakens your senses. So when you finally emerge from that glorious shower, 37 minutes later, because let's be honest, you pay the water bill so you can stay in there as long as you want. You're ready to take on the day. And smell great doing it. Irish Spring Body Wash and Bar Soap. Fresh, green, Irish. Look for Irish Spring in the soap aisle at Walmart.
Anyway, 201-939-4513. Remember, folks, if you didn't catch the show live, you can catch it on our entire podcast network. It's there on the archive, on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, and at giants.com/podcasts. The Giants Huddle, listen to it, subscribe to it. Giants and NFL luminaries, dignitaries, all kinds of big-time stuff there, long-form interviews.
The Friday preview's up, so you and Softy and Darius Slayton's on there with Schmelk.
Softy, my good friend from KJR Radio in Seattle, who just loves to talk smack. My goodness. So I talked to him yesterday. All right, Matt. And, in fact, I have to go on Seattle Radio today. And he just is relishing in the fact that the Giants have lost 6 out of the last 7 trips to Seattle. It's a house of horrors, right? It really is for the Giants. Colt McCoy got the only Giants win in recent years there. It was during the COVID season, and Wayne Gallman ran for 135 yards. Alfred Morris rushed for 2 touchdowns. I mean, that's how ridiculously fluky that Giants win was in Seattle.
There were no fans there. That takes away the whole advantage of that stadium.
The 12th man,
yeah.
Right? So, anyway, it's just been a miserable place for the Giants to play forever. And so Softy is always talking smack. And, of course, when they got Geno Smith, and I tried to tell him, like, those of us in New York, we know what he is. Well, Geno Smith does a complete 180 like we haven't seen since the days of Jim Plunkett when he was horrible with the 49ers and the Patriots and then won Super Bowl with the Raiders. Total 180. I mean, ridiculous 180. Sam Darnold's doing it now with Minnesota, at least for a month. 1 month does not make a season. So we'll see. We'll see. But Softy never, ever misses an opportunity to rub Seattle's dominance over the Giants in my face, nor does he miss an opportunity to rub Geno Smith in my face. Like, I could give two hoots about Geno Smith.
I do think it's time for you to stop saying we know what this guy is when it comes to opposing teams' quarterbacks, though.
Well, I'll tell you what, those two former Jets quarterbacks, one guy is obviously somebody different now. That's not the same Geno Smith. He's a different dude.
That is true. That is very true.
I mean, like Lee Majors, the $6 million man, Steve Austin, they rebuilt him and made him better. He's a different dude. So, anyway, that's the deal. So I got to go on with Softy this afternoon to talk to the Seattle radio folks, and he's already told me that the Seattle fan base is loaded for bear. They can't wait to take shots at me after my spot. What are you going to do? And Giants season ticket memberships also, you can stay connected to the club. They're available for the rest of this season. To learn more about exclusive memberships, visit giants.com/tickets. And the Giants TV is the official TV streaming app. It's got all kinds of video content, game highlights, etc. It is free on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and the Giants mobile app. Scott in New Mexico, you're first on the program, and we hope the phone lines hold up.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Right now we can.
Hear you.
Okay. First of all, despite what Paul says, Matt, congratulations on the Mets.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I won a ton of money on the series, so I'm anxious to see what they're going to do in Philadelphia. So I'm a happy camper, too. I'll try to make this fast since you probably are going to get other calls. I think some of the problems that the Giants are having are systemic. And what I mean by that, they're averaging right now about 13.2 points per game, which got to be towards the bottom of the barrel in the league. And there might be reasons for it, but I wanted to go over briefly, and Paul already knows this. I'm a big proponent of stop the run and being able to run the football. The opponents against the Giants are averaging about 118 yards per game. We're rushing at about 85 yards per game, which is about a 40-yard differential. So apparently the Giants can't stop the run, even though they have an improved defensive line, which I would admit. Offensively, they're running the ball, I think, it's approximately, about 340 some odd yards. And the averages of the other two backs, I'm not going to talk about Singletary, Eric Gray and Tyrone Tracy, the people that might have to play more. Eric Gray has had 4 carries for 7 yards so far in 4 games. And Tyrone Tracy has had 12 carries for 29 yards. The averages are ridiculous. They're 2 and 1.8. What is the problem? Because the offensive line is much, much better than it has been. As I've said to several people, I think this is one of the top offensive lines and will be at the end of the year. But I don't understand. You're scoring less points than you did last year. You have a better offensive line. Defensively, you're better, even though it's not reflected yet in the number of sacks, even though you've had more sacks. But the two specific people, Thibodeau and Burns, I think Thibodeau has 1.5 sacks and Burns has 1, although I think they've been active so far as pressure. So the problems that I see, and here's another problem. Daniel Jones, his passer rating is good, but his QBR is not. And the other thing that's interesting, in the 2022 series, he was averaging 6 points per reception, which was, I think, the lowest in the league. Right now, even though he's playing much, much better, he's only averaging about 2 percentage points more than he did in the year that they went to the playoffs. So, and then another player, for example, Tay Banks, has allowed 4 touchdowns so far this year. Last year, he allowed 4 touchdowns in the entire season. So I'm trying to understand what's going on because both lines are better. They should have decent running, but they don't. The scoring is down. And so it's a reflection, and I'm trying to do this quickly because I have other questions.
But Scott, we got to let you go because we got phone issues. The problem is, and appreciate it, the whole phone call is littered with inaccuracies. That's the problem. First of all, Banks has given up 3 touchdown passes this year, and I can specifically cite every single circumstance about them. So that in itself is inaccurate. It's not 4, it's 3. Talking to Jerome Henderson today, he's having issues right now with his comfort zone of playing the ball. He's a young player. He did miss a couple games last year. He's still trying to find his comfort zone on playing the ball. His shadow skills, his gluing to receivers, he's really good at that. He's got tremendous skills for a top corner in this league. But there are 3 ways to handle a wide receiver. A, you look back for the ball and play the ball. B, you play the receiver and his eyes. Or C, you hand fight him. Those are the 3 ways you do it. And right now, Tate Banks is having trouble with playing the ball part of it. And the other thing he's having trouble on is that when you play the number 1 receiver in this league, and Jerome Henderson talked about this today, the problem is you think you've got him covered. But when that guy is the number 1 receiver on the other team, chances are that quarterback's going to force it to him anyway. And even though you think you have him covered, that guy is probably a top-level elite receiver in this league, and somehow he's going to find a way to make the catch because they get paid too.
Yeah, I was just about to say, there are obviously some amazing wide receivers throughout the NFL. So I'm not using this as an excuse, but Deonte Banks in the first few weeks has faced Justin Jefferson, Terry McLaurin, Amari Cooper, and at least had some coverage on CeeDee Lamb last week.
Correct.
Those are 4 top receivers in the NFL.
And by the way, the cushion that he gave on Cooper's 1 touchdown, and also he'd give too much room on Lamb, Henderson said he was upset with Banks for not giving more in terms of after the catch on Lamb's touchdown. The ball was caught down the sideline, and then Lamb, as soon as he caught the ball, cut inside on the angle. Newbin took a bad angle, but what Henderson said is, we tell all our defensive backs, you got to bust your butt and do everything you can after the catch to get that guy down so that we live another play. And he was a bit ruffled because he thought Banks could have tried to do more to maybe try to chase him down. Even if you don't catch him, you got to show the effort to do it. And Banks, when he got beat on the play, did not show enough gumption to try to limit the damage to Coach Henderson's satisfaction. So I just want to get all that out of the way because I've heard a lot about Banks in the last couple of weeks. It's not that the kid doesn't have the skill set. He absolutely does. Okay? He just needs some polish and refining. So let me just get that out of the way.
Yeah. And then I just will touch on something else that he mentioned about the run game, on both sides of the ball. Let's start with the run defense. If you look, the Giants have had 4 games. 2 of those games, the run defense was great.
Yep.
Held the Browns to 69 yards on the ground, held the Cowboys to 80 yards on the ground. Obviously, the Giants' season rankings through the 4 games is skewed a little bit because there's that one game against the Commanders where they got completely gashed for 215 yards on the ground. So that's going to skew the numbers a little bit.
No doubt.
Even with that, the Giants have, in terms of yardage allowed, rank 15th in run defense. Considering how much that unit has struggled in the last however many years, because it's been years that the Giants have had struggles with their run defense, 15th is a stark improvement. I mean, the last couple of years, the Giants were bottom 5 in run defense every year. So, again, this is with the numbers skewed pretty heavily because of one game. They're ranking 15th. Obviously, you'd like the defense to give up less than 118.8 rushing yards per game, but if you look at the numbers across the league, run offenses all over the NFL are going crazy right now, and passing yards are down. So
usually because a lot of missed tackles. It was a sloppy September for the league, which is no surprise. So see, in context, Scott, you're not taking that issue in its proper context. And then number one, and number two, The run defense is not nearly as bad as you've made it out to seem. I will also go, and this is the other erroneous statement that he made, in terms of the Giants' offense. First of all, they've been in position to score a ton more points. There's nothing wrong with the functionality of this offense. What has happened is they had no kicker against Washington, which cost them. They would have scored at least 27 points in that game because the offense did plenty to get into scoring position. Daniel Jones has done plenty to get this team into scoring position in each of the last 3 weeks. And why have the Giants not scored more points? Has nothing to do with the system or the functionality or the big picture of the structure of this team. It simply has to do with Sports Radar has the Giants down for the third most drop passes in the league, 12 after 4 games. And by the way, against Dallas, third and fourth down conversions in the fourth quarter, all in Dallas territory, dropped by Slayton, dropped by Robinson, dropped by Neighbors. Okay? That's points. All 3 of those drives are points. The ball was there. The quarterback did what he needed to do to get the offense there to score points and drop pass, drop pass, drop pass. The penalty against Bellinger, the face mask, was a net 34 yards because it was a 4-yard scramble. Should have been 15 on a Dallas face mask. Would have been a 19-yard pickup and would have had them, I believe, inside the 15 or inside the 20. That's another scoring opportunity. Instead, the Giants had to go backwards 15 because they called it on Bellinger. That's a net 34-yard difference. Now, they did score a field goal at the end of that drive, but I believe had it been called correctly, they would have had a first down at the Dallas 18, which meant they certainly, reasonably, could have scored a touchdown and added another 4 points to their total. Okay? You need to understand this stuff before you start citing analytical stats, that you just peeled off the wall. You don't understand what's going on here. These are self-destructive to some degree. The fumble at the 35 of Washington by Singletary, which took points off the board. The drop pass by Neighbors at the 10-yard line on fourth down against Washington took points off the board. Singletary sits down at the 1-yard line in Cleveland, took points off the board. The field goal that was missed in Cleveland took points off the board. Do you understand? This offense has been in position to score a ton of points. So that criticism doesn't fly when you understand and peel back the layers of the onion.
Yeah, I mean, John and I discussed this earlier in the week. Coach Dable has talked about this. Look, this is a results business. No one's going to deny that. So
absolutely.
The results are the Giants are 1-3 and are averaging 15 whatever points per game. But that doesn't mean that, everything they're doing on offense is just awful and needs to be changed. Like, there is progress being made in areas. It's just the Giants have yet to, put all of it together, between the offensive line, the run game, not dropping passes, Daniel seeing the whole field. Like, everything is going to come to eventually, hopefully, everything will come together and this offense will put up the amount of points that everybody, all of us, the team, everyone wants them to score. There are signs of life with this offense. It's not like last year where, it was hard to hang your hat on anything that the offense was doing.
In short, the bungled execution in whatever area it might be is the reason the Giants have not scored more points. They've been in position. In previous seasons, the offense was not in position to score that many points. They were not moving the ball well enough to get deep into the offensive zone. They're doing it now. And it's the drop passes more than anything else. And, of course, the kicking game. Those are the two things that have really cost the Giants more points than anything this year. So if you want to be critical of the execution of those drive-ending plays, by all means, Scott, that's where you need to focus on. Right now, you got your glasses pointed in the wrong direction. You shouldn't be taking shots at the overall generalization of this offense. That's not where it is. And then I think the third item that he took a shot at, which, if you understand the game better, you wouldn't make the criticism. This offensive line Runyon, Schmitz, Van Roten. We told you from the minute that these guys were put on the field together, they are better pass-blocking offensive linemen than they are run-blocking offensive linemen. This is not a secret. Runyon's been a better pass blocker his whole career. Schmitz is a better pass blocker because he's a bit of an undersized center. Van Roten is more of a wily, crafty veteran who's better at pass blocking. He's not a road-grading guard. So the truth of the matter is, we knew, and we told you this for months, this is going to be a better pass-protecting offensive line than it's going to be a run-blocking offensive line. That is not a secret. Now, what stunk the other night against Dallas is that they took it to the extreme. And talking to Carmen Brusillo today, he's like, there are things we could have done with the scheme differently, and certainly you just got to get a hat on a hat. Get off the line of scrimmage, get a hat on a hat, and sustain your blocks. Giants didn't do any of that against Dallas, and that's why it was 1.1 yards per carry for 26 or 29 yards. I forget what it was.
They finished with 26 total rushing yards.
Right. That's what happened there. But if you're under the illusion that this was going to be a better line, which meant better run blocking and pass blocking, then you were mistaken from the very get-go, because we knew it was not going to be a great run blocking line.
But not only that, again, you look at the 4 games the Giants have had. Week 1, the Giants were down pretty big early on, and in the second half, we're not able to run the ball as much as they wanted to.
The first game I'm throwing out, that's like a preseason game.
Okay,
it was just a waste of time.
Then the next 2 weeks, 129 yards and 112 yards on the ground. Those are very solid rushing numbers. Obviously, again, this last week's game against the Cowboys, 26 rushing yards completely skews the season total, but similar to the rush defense, that's one game that is completely skewing the numbers for this 4-game sample size that we have. So I don't, obviously last week the run game was not good. It was not nearly as good as it needs to be. Every single person on the team, the coaching staff, everyone will say that. But that doesn't mean that there's like no signs of life with this run game at all. They've had success running the ball this season. It just didn't happen last week, and that is causing this numbers on the season, because again, we're only 4 games in. So you have one really bad game, it's going to skew your number.
Are you a morning person? Or when you roll out of bed, do you literally roll out of bed? Listen, mornings can be hard to handle. From the moment you open your eyes, your responsibilities and to-dos start piling up in your head. But you know what helps? Yep, a shower. But not just any shower, a shower with Irish Spring. Yeah, as soon as you reach for the Irish Spring, your day immediately gets better.
Oh, yeah.
All those to-dos are totally doable. Because that crisp, fresh, unmistakable Irish Spring scent zings your brain and awakens your senses. So when you finally emerge from that glorious shower, 37 minutes later, because let's be honest, you pay the water bill so you can stay in there as long as you want. You're ready to take on the day. And smell great doing it. Irish Spring Body Wash and Bar Soap. Fresh, green, Irish. Look for Irish Spring in the soap aisle at Walmart.
The game of pro football is so much more than numbers, and that's why people who want to make an argument or make a point and just immediately throw out a bunch of stats, usually that means they didn't study the rest of it. They didn't get into the full context of the issue, because if they did, they wouldn't be spewing out 90% of what they're saying with numbers. That's the lazy way. Just lean on other people's numbers. Marty, you're next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello.
Hey, Paul. Hey, Matt. How you guys doing?
Hey,
well, we're trying. We're trying, Marty. We're trying.
I hear you. Hey, Paul. I was wondering, because I know you get to see some of the practices. I was just curious, with Neighbors being out, if they've also tried to work Ford Wheaton into any of the snaps during practice. If there's a possibility we may see a little of him.
The open portion to the media during practice, which is all we are permitted to talk about on this show, is usually special teams, some individual drills, and we really don't get a whole lot of team drill kind of stuff. If we see one series, that's all we see. So I'm going to have to tell you that in the open portion, that was not present. Whether or not it was in the closed portion, I cannot tell you.
Yeah, well, that's fine, Paul. I appreciate the answer. Thanks a lot.
All right. Anytime, Marty. 201-939-4513. Let me make something clear, too. During the training camp, we see everything. Right? We see everything.
Yep.
Once the season starts, there's usually a 15 to 20 minutes maybe of open media session during the practice. That is all we are permitted to talk about. So when I say to you, can't talk about the rest of it, that's not to be interpreted as a yes or a no. It's to be interpreted exactly as I'm telling you. We cannot talk about anything once practice is closed. Whatever's happening out there, a helicopter could land on the 50-yard line. I can't tell you about it. That's just the way it is.
This isn't a Cowboys practice.
I like that. Very good. 201-939-4513.
No, just to, about Bryce Ford-Wheaton. If you just look at the roster, Giants have 6 wide receivers on the active roster. Malik Neighbors is out. That leaves 5, with Bryce Ford-Wheaton and Amir Smith-Marset being 2 of the 5.
Yeah.
And those are 2 primarily special teams guys. We think Isaiah Hodgins probably will get called up because he's the one wide receiver on the practice squad. But even if he is, that leaves 4, quote-unquote, true, genuine wide receivers plus the 2 special teams guys. So there's certainly a chance that Bryce Ford-Wheaton could get some snaps on offense.
Yeah.
Especially, God forbid, but if another guy goes down with an injury, then he's going to either him or Smith-Marset are going to be forced to see more playing time and actually get on the field on offense. So it's entirely, we don't know. As you said, we have no idea. It's entirely possible he could take some snaps.
Oh, sure. And you know what? If he does, I'll tell you what, I love the kid's skill set. He could do some things.
Yeah, we were all so high on him last year during training camp. Well, we saw it before he tore his ACL. He really looked good out there.
And by the way, Smith-Marset, this is a very interesting thing. He was at Iowa for 4 years where he was their primary kickoff returner. Comes to the NFL, and he's only been in the NFL for a short period of time now. Here's what's wild about it. He's been a punt returner, but not a kickoff returner. So his return duties flipped after he got to the NFL. Now, it remains to be seen, what the Giants are going to wind up doing this week. We've heard that Coach Gabriel has talked very highly about Eric Gray and about Tyrone Tracy. He's talked very highly about both guys.
Yep.
Also believes that Smith-Marset, can do things too. I don't know who they're going to use on Sunday. I really don't. But Amir at Iowa, that was his thing. He was a kickoff return guy. So, I don't know. Maybe he winds up being that guy here too. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely, first of all, it doesn't hurt to have another guy in the mix. But if Devin Singletary is unable to go, then between Tyrone Tracy and Eric Gray, those are your 2 primary running backs. I don't know if you're going to want to have both of them also returning kicks.
Right.
So one of them, at least one could get subbed out, and Smith-Marset could be a logical choice to fill in for one of those guys if Gabriel decides to go in that direction.
And haven't heard any talk about Gunnar Olszewski in a while. Him on injured reserve.
When did he get put on IR?
I want to say 2 weeks ago, right?
So we wouldn't be hearing much about him.
I'd like to know if he's progressing.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But we typically don't get too many updates about guys on injured reserve until
it's almost
we're close to that 4 week.
Right. Until it's almost time that they're coming off.
But just since we're talking about the wide receivers real quick, we just got a question on Twitter about the wide receivers. Aiden asked, how involved do you think Jalen Hyatt will be with Neighbors out on Sunday? We kind of touched on this before, but he seems to be the primary guy that's going to, fill in for Malik in terms of snaps on the field. I mean, right now, through the first 4 games, Jalen Hyatt's been on the field for 29 snaps. I wouldn't be surprised if he matches or tops that number on Sunday alone because, as we were talking about, the Giants just don't have a ton of wide receivers on the roster. They're going to need Jalen Hyatt to step up and take a good amount of playing time and hopefully come up with some big catches.
Jose in Florida is next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Hi.
Hey, Jose.
So my question is to Paul. How much time do you think a coach and a GM need to actually build a team where they have all their people in, where they have pretty much, solid starters, and then guys that can also jump in there, backups and practice squad guys, solid guys that can actually come in and step up and help out the team? How much time do you actually think a GM and a head coach and an organization needs to do something like that?
Well, there are various factors. I think each individual circumstance has to be looked at on its own merit. And part of the reason is this, because when they come into a program, you have to understand the salary cap situation, number one, okay? You also have to understand in terms of not just this year's cap, but what is the length of some of the substantial contracts that are on the roster that will impact your team over the next 2 or 3 years? If they're coming into a situation where you have a bunch of guys who are higher paid guys who have multi-year deals, well, now not only are you going to have a trouble with this year's cap, but now if you get rid of those guys, you're going to have more trouble in the next year or two on the cap because you won't end up getting paid through the wazoo for dead money. So it's a lot harder for guys coming into that situation to rebuild their team quickly. Now, on the other hand, if it's a really weak team that doesn't have a lot of money tied up in a bunch of contracts, now they can much, much quicker start turning guys over. The other factor is you also have to take into account what do they got in terms of draft capital. Let's say they're coming into a situation where the team stocked up draft picks over the next 2 or 3 years. That helps. You can accelerate the change. If they've traded picks away because they tried to get some veterans in a patchwork fix the previous year, all of a sudden now you're left with less draft capital, and that's going to hurt your process. So there's not a stock answer to that question. There are a lot of variables.
Yeah, I mean, all you have to do is just look at the Giants and another one of their division rivals as two examples. When Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll were hired before the 2022 season, the Giants had essentially no cap space. Like, the only two significant additions that the Giants were able to make that offseason were Mark Lewinsky was signed to a multi-year deal making a couple million a season, and Tyrod Taylor. That's it. Everyone else was basically minimum deals because the Giants were in such a poor cap situation, and that's what Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll walked into. We're now on to season 3. I would say in a situation like that, season 3, the third season, is when you would start to see the team that the current regime has built. And, I've spoken about this on the show before. Right now on the Giants roster, there's only one player that Joe Schoen did not either sign, draft, or re-sign, and that is Azeez Ojulari. Every other player he brought in.
Right.
This regime brought in. So year 3 in a situation like that is typically when you would start to see the team that, the coach and GM had in mind. That's when you start to see it on the field.
But developmental-wise, they don't necessarily have to be there maybe until year 4.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right. We're talking roster.
Just the guys.
You're talking about name turnover.
Yeah.
Right.
Just the guys on the team. But then the other example is the Washington Commanders. They just had a new GM and new coach this past offseason. Those guys walked into a situation where the Commanders had, I think, close to $100 million in cap space.
Well, they just dumped a bunch of their high-priced veterans the previous year.
Exactly. And they had so they had extra draft capital as well, as you were saying. So that is a completely different situation to what Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll walked into 2 years ago. And I'm not saying that's why the Commanders are, off to this 3-1 start, but it allowed Adam Peters and Dan Quinn to go out and sign basically any of the free agents that they wanted to. And obviously, it didn't hurt that they drafted Jaden Daniels at number 2, but that's just very drastically different situations that regimes walked into. And I think that's why, at least for those two teams, you see the Commanders, at least so far, off to this early success, which also, by the way, the Giants 2 years ago when Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll first came here, they made the playoffs that year. They got off to the same start that the Commanders did. So
yeah, so there's no stock answer. In short, there is no stock answer. Every single situation has to be graded on its own merit. This Giants team, and I'm glad you brought up the number, Matt, because Joe Shane and Brian Daboll have totally overhauled this roster in now their third season here. But that does not mean developmentally this team is where they want it to be. Brian Daboll just said the other day, and he was being factual about this, by snap percentage, the Giants have had more rookie playing time than any other team in the league this year.
Yep.
Well, by its inherent nature, rookies make mistakes, and you'll pay for those mistakes. You know, young players are not 4, 5, 6-year veterans. They don't have the experience to necessarily make all the right plays. And so you got a bunch of young guys at the same time playing significant minutes on your football team. Well, that's a lot of potential mistakes that are going to happen. You just have to live with it.
For sure. And, I mean, it's an opportunity to let those young guys get a lot of action early on and then develop. I mean, the Giants have already gotten some pretty great, I would think we could all say, some pretty great play from their rookie class through the first 4 games. I expect those guys to just continue to grow and get better as the season goes on. And they're already playing pretty dang well.
That's the idea.
Between Neighbors, Nubin, the first 2 weeks we saw of Drew Phillips. You know, we haven't really even seen Theo Johnson and Tyrone Tracy get, well, Theo Johnson's been on the field, but they haven't gotten, you know, significant action even when out there. So I expect that to increase as the season goes on. You have Elijah Chapman as an undrafted guy who's already made an impact in the first month of the season. This is one of the youngest teams in the NFL. Not even in terms of rookie. Yes, they're, I think, still number 1 in terms of rookie snaps played, but also just in terms of the average age. I believe they are one of the top 3 youngest teams in the NFL. This is a growing team that is not going to reach its potential this year. It's going to continue to grow and develop and get better, these young guys.
Think about the 3 safeties who were playing the bulk of the time. Really, these guys are still pretty green between Pinnock, Belton, and, of course, Nubin himself is a rookie. I mean, between those 3 guys together, there are NFL safeties in this league that have more experience than those 3 guys combined.
Pinnock's the veteran of the group, and he's still on his rookie contract.
I mean, so this is again, everything about the game of pro football is a spider web. I don't know how many billions of times I have to say that. Every strand is connected to a billion other strands. You got to be able to peel back those layers of the onion, you know? Nothing is that simple, and nothing gets reduced to just a bunch of little stats. No, absolutely not. So anyway, Sunday, let's see, we're almost out of time. We got to remind people that 2 hours before kickoff, what are we, 4:25, Pearson, on Sunday?
Yeah.
So 2 hours before kickoff on WFAN, there'll be the radio pregame show. Then you'll have 2-hour postgame show on the radio. You'll have a 1-hour postgame on MSG. I know you can always go to NFL Plus and go to the Giants app to pick up certain availabilities. I believe it's radio only. Is that right?
In the app, during the regular season, there's no streaming.
But you can.
You get the radio.
Yeah, you get the radio.
I think you can definitely get the radio pregame and I believe postgame.
Because I think you can go through our Giants site. Can you not to get to the link to WFAN?
Oh, you know, for that, right? Yes. Yeah.
So you can get the radio call on the internet there, and then NFL Plus, of course, is another situation where you can get video and all kinds of great stuff.
And you go to Giants.com and the Giants app throughout the game for just various forms of content, highlights, you know, any updates, photos, all that good stuff.
We're busy. We stay busy. It's that time of year. Even though baseball is entering the playoffs and it's really, the fall of the Fall Classic.
The Mets play at 4 o'clock on Sunday.
Do they?
Yeah, I'm going to have the dual screens up.
Okay. That's fine. 201-939-4513. Write down the number. We are here Monday to Friday, live at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time for 1 hour to talk Giants football. Also, hashtag Giants Chat if you want to get us on Twitter. And an archive of this show, as well as our entire podcast network, is available at giants.com/podcasts, your favorite podcast platforms, and the Giants mobile app.
Final thoughts for the game?
I hope for the Giants' sake that they just go out there and play a clean game and execute properly, because I'm tired of having to have these conversations about drop passes and fluky things that they've done that have sabotaged these scoring opportunities that allows fans to talk about how the offense is broken. I'm really tired of that.
Yeah, I hear you. I agree with you. I think Coach Dable would agree with you too on that. For me, obviously the Giants are going to go into this game already at least a little bit shorthanded with no Malik Neighbors. Remains to be seen if Devin Singletary is going to be able to suit up. So I want to see the guys that are filling in for these guys step up to the plate. I mean, we hear all the time, it's next man up. It's next man up. Well, now's the time to really show it, because Malik Neighbors obviously has been the focal point of this offense. Devin Singletary has been the focal point of the run game. If those two guys are both out, that is a significant chunk of the offense the first month of the season that will not be out there on Sunday. The Giants are going to need other guys to step up, whether it's Darius Slayton and Jalen Hyatt at wide receiver, Tyrone Tracy and Eric Ray at running back. I think this is a great opportunity for Theo Johnson to get a little more involved in the passing game. We haven't seen much from him yet. This could be a game where he gets a few more targets with no Malik Neighbors out there. So we know the Seahawks offense will present a big challenge for the Giants defense. Similar to what you said about mistakes on offense, I just want to see a clean game on defense as well. No missed tackles. You know, DK Metcalf he's gonna make his catches, but when he does, tackle him right away. Don't let him break a tackle and take a 5-yard slant for 70 yards and a touchdown.
By the way, Giants are actually faring well against the rest of the league in missed tackles. Their number is very, very low.
It's just, of all the receivers in the NFL where missed tackle scares me, DK Metcalf is probably number one.
He's a big dude.
He is a big, strong man. And
he is a big dude.
Hard for any defender in the NFL to tackle. So,
all right,
when he gets the ball in his hands, just bring him down.
That'll wrap up the show for today. He's Matt Citak. I'm Paul Dottino. That'll do it for Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. We'll see you again next week, everybody. So long.
You go into your shower feeling, but as soon as you reach for the Irish Spring, your day immediately gets better. That crisp, fresh, unmistakable Irish Spring scent zings your brain and awakens your senses. So when you finally emerge from the shower, 37 minutes later, because you pay the water bill so you can stay in there as long as you want, you're ready to take on the day. And smell great doing it. Irish Spring Body Wash and Bar Soap. Fresh, green, Irish. Shop now at Walmart.